I am one of 500 million.
I am one of 500 million.
500 million.
My name is Seha.
Thiago.
Simran.
道明
I am 27 years old.
31 years old.
I am a software engineer.
An accountant.
a teacher,
A scientist.
We represent change.
Opportunity.
We are the tipping point in the global economy.
we speak Mandarin,
Portuguese.
Hindi, Malay, Vietnamese.
And we live in faraway places you've probably never heard of.
Izmir,
Mombasa,
Fortaleza.
We think different.
we dress different,
We are different.
together we are the new voice.
The new face of an emerging middle class.
Millions of new consumers.
New buyers and new households.
Over the next decade, our combined spending will increase to 20 trillion a year. That's double what the US spends now.
by 2025, middle-income households will grow to 220 million in China, 4 times as many as in 2004.
In India, by the year 2041, the middle class could make up 90% of the population, a billion people.
In developing countries all over the world, companies are vying for position, hoping to capture the loyalty of millions of new consumers. People like me, ready to buy, ready to spend.
Ready to tip the scales. Are you ready?
Cindy Miller, it's my name. I started with UPS a long time ago. Hugh said 29 years. In October, it'll be 30. And I started when I was maybe 11. There were jobs then. There were jobs back then. So it's been gosh, when I think back about how long it's been and all that's been changed, I don't remember anything other than extreme change. As many of you have, and as I look around the room, and I've met many of you and all the years of experience that you bring. So it was a pleasure to meet many of you earlier today, and I look forward to having a chat maybe over that adult beverage as soon as this is finished. So as it was said, many of you know UPS because you see our package cars and all those friendly drivers who deliver all those e-commerce goods to your front door. And remember, I was one of them, and I can also tell you we know exactly who you are. We know how many of you order maybe a little bit too much, and we also know how many of you we're engaged in relationships with your spouses that tell us where to hide things. We're all things to you and more than you could imagine. So just to put that into perspective. So behind the scenes right now, I work on our global freight forwarding with our air and ocean carrier operations, and I help connect the manufacturers and the suppliers of the goods to make sure that we get whatever it is that you ordered to your front door. So for me, I'm not concerned, as many of you are, I'm not concerned about your individual iPhone or Samsung Galaxy. I'm concerned about bringing hundreds of thousands of them over from Asia or from different parts of the world. And one of the things I can say is this is a very impressive conference. I had a chance to walk around earlier today, and it's jam-packed with some amazing individuals and companies that are really pushing the edge and pushing the envelope and pushing companies like UPS to become better in providing solutions and staying as creative and getting on the cutting edge of things as everybody needs to be. So I was really fascinated to walk around downstairs earlier this afternoon just to see the amount of technology and all of the things that are going on. So to all of you that were engaged and are pursuing those paths, you really are doing amazing things. But today I've been asked to share some of my thoughts and take a look from a business perspective about future trends and what do we see from our customers' global supply chains. And one of the things I can tell you is the future is a popular place Everybody wants to know what it looks like. Everybody wants to know the best way to prepare for it. And everybody wants to get there first. And everybody wants to have the right stuff. And one of the things the video showed us is finding the tipping point where change and opportunity intersect. It's never been easy. And getting it right has never been more difficult. And in my very, very simplistic Yoda impersonation, I think Yoda told Luke Skywalker one time, he said, "Difficult to see, always in motion is the future." Now, I did that in front of my 3-year-old grandson who loves Star Wars, and he told me, "You're not any good." So I do realize that, so if you already thought that, you aren't the first. But in that little comical phrase is the word difficult, and I don't think it's ever been more difficult. And in motion, more so every day. And I think one of the things that combines us and that binds us together is the fact that we are all being rocked by the same forces. There are new technologies, many of them that we saw on display downstairs. There's new competitors, many of you are in here. There's new economies, there's new consumers, there's new expectations, and everybody has a different idea of the value that needs to be created for customers. But we're all chasing the same solutions. Everybody in here, and I know ad infinitum, we talk about targeted growth, better efficiencies, creating structure that's built for change, aligning with emerging markets, and across all of that, bringing more creativity, more efficiency to meeting the needs of customers. Playing this new game according to old rules, which each and every one of us has a tendency to do, it's like playing, let's say, playing checkers on a chessboard. But what happens today is it isn't even that simple. That chessboard is now 3-dimensional, in some instances 4-dimensional, which means the rules have changed with every move, and new players can join at any time. Now, like Hugh had said, I started as a driver back in 1988 in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And, you know, I knew, then I thought it was a complex world, and I thought my vehicle was, you know, I knew everything that was going on in the back of that, and I made sure that I did all the things that I need to do during the day, but I thought that was complicated. But they were simpler times, my goodness, to say the least. And since then, I've been everywhere from our expansion into healthcare, retail business, consumer divisions. I've worked everywhere, from Ireland to South Africa. I've lived in the UK, as Hugh had said. We apparently don't share the same soccer team, but we can agree on rugby. I've lived in the UK. I've worked in and around Dubai. I was the president of UPS for Europe, so I had a chance to see an awful lot of change during those 8 years that I was there. And now I'm back in this job in the freight forwarding role for the last 2 years. And I can easily say, just as you have seen, just in the last 2 years, in our industry, things continue to be wildly unpredictable. If you take a look at, things go from complex to incredibly complex, and I'm not here to solve the world's problems, but I'm here to just maybe break down a few things to give you an idea of what we see and what's coming down the pike. So to get to the final destination, I think one of the things we need to look at there are 3 destination points, and I think at some point in time, businesses need to figure out where they are in connection to these 3. It's connection, disruption, and combination. If we connect globally to the risks and opportunities, keeping the customer in the forefront, if we invest in the right technical and organizational innovations, keeping the customer in the forefront, and if we bring the first 2 together with the right partners, we think everybody's going to win. Should be a package deal, and you would think that it should be easy. It's not, and if you miss one, you miss them all. We live in a world of paradoxes that have changed every day the way we view things, just like the video that was played a little earlier. Emerging economies are challenging advanced ones, creating new markets, but adding many, many local competitors, and many of you are seeing that, and many of you got your start that way. A billion people have joined the global middle class, with 1 billion more on the way, improving the quality of life, but also putting a tremendous amount of stress on all the global resources. Humanity is packing up and moving to the city, concentrating wealth and simplifying access, but also posing huge challenges for the quality of life, and business has never been under more pressure to not only perform, but at the same time, to keep all of those other factors in focus, with an emphasis on making sure that everybody does well, but helps to create a better world. And of course, there's massive change in how the world shops. Many of you, and we know who you are living testimony to those changes in how we shop. If we take a closer look at businesses, we see the same kind of change. Along with macro changes, there are macro changes. Both ports and freight forwarding are navigating transformation in the ocean carrier industry. Coming off years of increasing volatility and financial losses, and we all lived through those times between 2016 and 17, we're seeing massive consolidation and a concentration of market share. And one of UPS's largest capacity providers, K-Line, has joined with two other giant Japanese carriers, MOL and NYK, and they've created the Ocean Network Express Group. Many of you work with them. And we all would think, wow, consolidation, that means less volatility. But it also means fewer competitors. And as soon as you get into fewer competitors, it means that someone is in a stronger position in order to make rates not be so flexible. So in turn, we have to evolve, and we believe that we need to improve and advance the way in which we all procure. There's a huge technology component that we all are looking for from an analytics perspective in order to get ahead of that. And against that background of global and industry change, we also need strategies to deal with both. It starts with our ability to connect the dots and constantly add new ones by focusing and creating on a new customer experience. I'll share with you that it's probably about a month ago now, I had an opportunity to address the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C. And instead of sitting with a group of peers from the industry, I had an opportunity to address the policymakers, those that try to figure out what's the next realm of regulation that needs to be put forth, what's the next set of obligations that they need to put on businesses. And one of the things that I had an opportunity to stress with them more than ever is policy is good, but policy has to not be taking just business and what business does into consideration, but a huge emphasis. They almost need to look a step forward to take a look from what is the customer expecting of business, and somewhere in between there, policy needs to land in order to make sure that it is that policy that is made is also taking the end consumer, the citizens of countries into consideration. So it was quite an interesting discussion that I had with them. But I think that means we have to dig deeper in our understanding of what the customer experience is, and we need to get a whole lot better at seeing things through their eyes. We all think we do it, but I can tell you whatever it is that we think we do, we are just scratching the surface in terms of what our customers are expecting from all of us. More importantly than ever, we have to start building long-term partnerships as soon as we land a new relationship. And at the same time, and with the same amount of attention, we have to put connections in and continue to foster long-term partnerships. And one of these things, and one of these needs, comes from the retail industry. There are a few places where creating the right experience is more important, or high stakes or complex, than in retail. And that's true for UPS, and it's also true for the ocean shipping. The degree of difficulty in creating that experience starts with what some are calling the retail apocalypse, and you've all heard it, where every day brings more bad news and another big name in the headlines. In 2017, there were 7,000 store closings in the U.S. 7,000 store closings from a retail perspective in the U.S. Now you get back to the age of paradox, because some would call it, oh goodness, it's the demise of retail as we know it. But I can tell you, I think that's a bit premature. Because as Forbes pointed out, last year store openings, for the first time in a long time, outpaced store closings. So department stores and specialty soft goods are in free fall, no doubt. But we're seeing big gains in supermarkets and drugstores, mass merchandisers, and convenience stores. E-commerce has changed retail dramatically and forever, but it's still in its early stages. In 2016, at the end of 2016, the impressive $3 trillion in global e-commerce sales So there was $3 trillion in global e-commerce sales in 2016. That was just 7% of all retail sales. By 2020, it's expected to jump to 14.5%. Adding to our retail complexity is growing segmentation. There are the online marketplaces like Amazon and Alibaba, where retailers sell direct to consumers. There still are the traditional big box retailers, such as Walmart, but now they're trying to drive same-store sales higher, and they're diversifying into things like groceries, and they are significantly accelerating their online e-commerce strategies. Then there's specialty retailers, the ones that want to find their niche in between the big box and in between being at a craft fair. They are in an especially tough spot as customers for their specialties are now moving online and expect to see them able to give an e-commerce solution. So if you pick a city, you'll find any one of those that I had talked about popping up. They'll close next week, and they just popped up on a different corner. These are often brands that you used to find solely with big box retailers. But today, everybody wants to go direct to consumer. And what makes life interesting for us is that there are older models and newer models, but they are not sequential, which means one doesn't always replace the next one. All are viable, all are demanding, and all are looking for us to change the customer experience. So to create connection, first I think we need disruption. Disruption is a bad thing if somebody does it to you. It's a very good thing if you do it to yourself. And I can tell you the term disruption has a whole new personality when you're speaking in Washington, D.C. Self-disruption can be very hard for big organizations like mine, and it can be very difficult for any size successful ones. Because the thought is always, why change when you're winning? It's very easy for large or smaller companies that have been successful to see the world from their own perspective, their own history, their own set of experiences, and base everything solely on their previous success. For most of us, we're usually at our worst when we are convinced that we're at our best. We have to look at disruption from the technological perspective, where we now use amazing new tools that we could not even imagine a decade ago. They can be so small you'd need a microscope to see them. Machines can also connect and learn. They can make decisions. We all saw a good bit of that downstairs on display. The Internet of Things will allow even the smallest devices to connect to global networks. By 2020, 40 to 50 billion devices will be connected to these networks. Smart sensors by the hundreds of millions can monitor, calculate, and connect, giving us the kind of real-time data that is beyond our reach, that has been beyond our reach in the past. And they will do that just as we do it for the level and to the level of one single package. Blockchain technologies will give us a secure global spreadsheet that lives in the cloud and are available at every point in our network. To give you an idea, at UPS, 3D printing will revolutionize our interaction between manufacturing and distribution. We worked with SAP and a 3D printing company called Fast Radius, and we built a 3D printing network in our UPS stores. This was something at some point in time when we just looked at it and we thought that was really kind of Star Wars-ish. And we now run 24/7 3D printing machines in our Louisville hub currently, and we're expected to expand to grow where at least 1,000 of those machines will hum every night, 24/7, 365 days out of the year. We're talking about disruption. We're talking about us disrupting ourselves and trying to figure out how to get ahead of it. These advances are real. They are now. They are growing. And they will drive change at a rate the world has never seen. The heart of our technology and the engine of our customer experience is our smart logistics network. Many of you, and I spoke to some of you downstairs, know a few of the things that we do, whether it's Orion or some of the other technologies that we have. But at the end of the day, you are building your own sets of technologies and things to continue to disrupt and make your own smart logistics networks. And I think the possibilities are endless. But our network and our logistics are in everything that we are, from trucks to planes to facilities to algorithms, including the experience, the brains, and the energy of our people. And that smartness means we go from intelligent, and we've all got to get from intelligent to intuitive. And I also spoke with many of you that are trying to talk about, predicting what customer expectations are and what's going to happen. We're building a network that has to be able to think and plan and change and improve capabilities, but more importantly, all of those changes are being taken place purely and most importantly, built on the back of making sure we improve the customer experience. It's a network of integrated networks offering end-to-end control, the highest levels of security and reliability and speed and visibility and all the other E words that all the customers are looking for. We used to say that we were a company of assets that were supported by technology, but today we think we're a technology company that's supported by a couple of assets. But we can build the largest and the fastest and the most customer-centric network in the world, but inevitably, everything that we do reaches a train yard, an airport, an ocean port, and that determines truly how we can enable and make the supply chains move, as all of you know. And yet we all have to be part of that same network. You see it every day. So the question is, do we get to a point in time where we figure out how to combine assets and some technologies and our views of the future to make things better? Our capabilities and technologies have to come together around the voice of the customer, and we don't think anybody can go it alone. And we see that in the fact that we've had to make partnerships with many companies in order to figure out not just to do things the UPS way, but to make sure that we're doing things the way the customer wants them done. Partnership is one of those warm and fuzzy words that everybody throws around in business. Everybody wants it. Nobody disagrees with it. Most of us underestimate what it truly takes to achieve those types of partnerships. The reality is that partnerships are hard. They're hard to create, but more importantly, they're even harder to maintain. If you do some quick research into strategic alliances and business partnerships, you'll see that failure rates of many of these partnerships exceed 60%. Beating those odds takes a shared vision, takes structure, it takes understanding of what each partner brings to the table. It takes a clarity of expectations. I think we need flexibility, we need good information, and we need services that advance along with the expectations of the customer. We need carrier milestones, we need port milestones, flexibility, prioritization, multiple speeds in the purchase supply chain where we can get right product, right speed, right need, and have all of those match. We need the product's infrastructure and technology to support the growth from e-commerce. And while we may all be in different businesses in this room, we all win or lose with our ability to change, in the end, to adapt to the customer experience. We all have to make it faster, we have to make it better, we have to make it more flexible. We all win or lose on the power of the technologies that we can bring to that experience. And I've seen many of the things that have been on display downstairs, and I think that's obviously the direction everybody's going. We win or lose on the strength of those innovations that make us faster, more powerful, more flexible in building the supply chains where value travels multiple channels. We win or lose on the strength of the partnerships that forge diverse networks and make them a seamless network that extends deep into the value chains of our customers and each of us. It's been said that the future belongs to those who try it, who poke at it, who question it, who turn it inside out. And I think we need to try and poke and question and turn it in ways that we haven't been particularly good at in the past. And I say that from experience coming from a very big company, and we talk about that every day. We then all need to collectively create a policy and create technologies and create partnerships where we can address all of those rapidly changing future trends. I can tell you that nobody has it figured out, and in this changing world, we all share in the global learning experience. And that global learning experience, class is in session every minute of the day, and unfortunately, one thing is true: the future does not grade on a curve. And if you looked at my grades, that would have been disastrous in my life, going through the halls of education. So with that, we'll close with a video. I thank you very much for your time and attention. Look forward to meeting with all of you. I think Hugh had mentioned there might be an adult beverage or two right outside, and I look forward to seeing all of you then. So please.
talk to you in this most modern and novel manner.